The downpour was a merciless curtain, and through it, Amelia raced, clutching the baby to her chest, her breath ragged. Suddenly, a sleek black sedan screeched to a halt beside her. The window glided down, revealing Ethan Cole, his normally immaculate suit now darkened by rain, his expression unreadable. "Is he mine?" The question, sharp as broken glass, pierced through the roar of the New York City storm. Ethan Cole, a man whose name was synonymous with power and wealth, a man she hadn't seen in 10 agonizing months, stared at her, his eyes fixed on the tiny, blanket-wrapped bundle she shielded. Water streamed down his expensive leather coat, pooling at his feet on the glistening pavement of Fifth Avenue. "Answer me, Amelia," he insisted, his voice, usually so firm, cracking with an unfamiliar emotion. "Is this baby mine?" Amelia's grip tightened on little Lily. Her thin blouse was plastered to her skin, the cold seeping into her bones, a mirror to the ice that had encased her heart for so long. Tears, indistinguishable from the rain, coursed down her face. Her gaze flickered from the opulent Mercedes to the man she had once loved with a desperate, all-consuming passion. "What are you doing here, Ethan? Suddenly, we matter to you." The words were venom on her tongue. "You threw us out like trash 10 months ago." Little Lily, startled by the tension and the biting wind, began to wail. Amelia tried to soothe her, rocking her gently, taking an involuntary step back, away from Ethan. "I never threw you out, Amelia," he said, genuine confusion etched on his handsome features. "I looked for you everywhere when you vanished." "What are you talking about?" His apparent sincerity gave her a moment's pause, a flicker of doubt in the storm of her resentment. But then, the memories surged back, the lonely nights, the desperate days, the struggle to survive as a single mother in the unforgiving city. She couldn't afford to believe him, not again. "Don't pretend, Ethan. I got your message loud and clear. Along with the $50,000 to disappear from your life." Ethan took a step closer, his hand reaching tentatively towards the baby. "Amelia, I swear on everything I hold sacred, I don't know what you're talking about. I never sent you money, and I never, ever asked you to leave." A flash of lightning illuminated the bruised Manhattan skyline, followed by a clap of thunder that seemed to shake the very ground beneath them. In that instant, Amelia's legs gave way. 10 months of relentless exhaustion, working dead-end jobs while caring for a newborn, stretching every dollar, surviving on a few hours of sleep a night. It all crashed down on her with the force of the tempest. Ethan caught her just as she buckled, his arm a steel band around her waist, his other hand instinctively shielding Lily. "I'm taking you home," he stated, his voice leaving no room for argument. "I don't have a home," Amelia whispered, the tears finally flowing freely. "I was evicted today." Ethan's eyes widened in shock, then softened with a fierce determination. "Then you're coming to mine." As he guided her towards his car, the uniformed chauffeur holding an umbrella, Amelia's mind reeled back 10 months. She'd been a young, ambitious architect, presenting her innovative designs for affordable, sustainable housing at a prestigious conference. He, Ethan Cole, heir to the Cole construction empire, one of the largest developers on the East Coast, had been the only executive who approached her afterward, not to critique her unprofitable ideas, but to commend her vision. A week later, they were having dinner. A month later, they were inseparable, their nights filled with passion, their days with dreams. It had felt like a fairy tale. The billionaire tycoon, captivated by her, a simple architect from a working-class neighborhood in Queens, armed with big ideas but few connections. Everything shattered the night Ethan introduced her to his mother, Mrs. Eleanor Ainsworth. The matriarch's icy gaze had raked over Amelia, appraising her, calculating her worth, and deeming her utterly unsuitable for her precious son. A week after that chilling encounter, Amelia found a plain envelope in her mailbox. Inside, $50,000 in cash and a typewritten note. "Mr. Cole thanks you for the time shared but wishes to discontinue the relationship. This money should compensate for any inconvenience." 2 days later, she discovered she was pregnant. Subscribers, what would you do if you were in Amelia's shoes right now? Would you trust Ethan even a little bit? Let us know your first impressions in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button if you're already hooked on this story. Now, settling into the plush leather seat of Ethan's Mercedes, the city lights blurring past, Amelia glanced at him. He was holding Lily with surprising care, the baby having quieted, now looking curiously at the man who was, unknowingly, her father. To my penthouse, Martin, Ethan instructed his chauffeur, a man named Mark Bellwether, who observed the scene in the rearview mirror with an unreadable expression. Where were you all these months? Ethan asked Amelia softly, his voice gentle as the car sped through the rain-slicked streets. I checked your apartment in Astoria, your old office. No one knew where you'd gone. Amelia eyed him with suspicion, but a sliver of doubt had lodged itself in her heart. I moved in with a friend, Chloe, in the Bronx. I had to quit my job when the pregnancy started to show. I found another one at a small firm, but the pay was terrible, and then Chloe. She just disappeared, leaving me with all the rent. Ethan was gazing at Lily with a look of utter fascination. What's her name? Lily, Amelia replied, watching his reaction closely. Lily? He repeated, a genuine, heart-stopping smile spreading across his lips. She's beautiful. For the first time since she'd seen him standing in the rain, Amelia felt a tiny, reluctant flutter of hope. Maybe, just maybe, there was something terribly wrong with the story she'd believed for so long. Ethan, she said, her voice barely a whisper. If you didn't send that money, then who did? Ethan's jaw tightened, his eyes darkening with a dangerous glint. I don't know, he said, his voice a low growl. But I promise you, Amelia, we are going to find out. Ethan's penthouse on the Upper East Side was a testament to his wealth, a glass-walled marvel that glittered with warm light against the stormy sky. As they stepped out of the private elevator directly into the foyer, Amelia was struck by the stark contrast between her recent life of struggle and this world of unimaginable luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking panoramic views of the city. Designer furniture and original artwork created an atmosphere of sophisticated, almost sterile, elegance. Ethan disappeared down a hallway and returned with fluffy towels and a silk robe. The guest suite is ready. There are some clothes in the closet that might fit you, he said, handing her the towels. Do you need anything for Lily? Amelia shook her head, clutching the now peacefully sleeping baby. I have the essentials in my backpack. An uncomfortable silence descended. 10 months of absence, of unanswered questions, of pain and loneliness, hung heavy in the air. I need to know what happened, Amelia, Ethan said finally, sinking onto a plush sofa opposite her. The last I knew, you were coming to dinner after meeting my mother. But you never showed up. I called you for days. Amelia stared at him, incredulous. You called me? My phone never rang, Ethan. And 2 days later, I received that envelope with the money and your message saying you wanted nothing more to do with me. Ethan shot up from the sofa, running his hands through his damp hair in frustration. I swear to you, Amelia, I never sent that message. I looked for you everywhere. I even hired a private investigator. But it was like you'd vanished into thin air. Amelia gently rocked Lily, who stirred in her sleep. I moved in with Chloe in the Bronx. I left my job at the big firm when the pregnancy became obvious. The rumors about us were already spreading like wildfire. Ethan approached her slowly, as if afraid of startling a frightened doe. Can I hold her? Amelia hesitated. Her mind screamed a warning, but something in Ethan's eyes, a raw vulnerability, a desperate longing, made her nod. Carefully, she transferred the small, blanket-wrapped bundle into his outstretched arms. Ethan looked down at the baby with an expression of pure awe, his strong hands surprisingly gentle as he held her with a mixture of fear and reverence. She's perfect, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. She has your eyes. The chime of the apartment doorbell shattered the fragile moment. Mark Bellwether, who had discreetly vanished upon their arrival, reappeared, his expression tense. It's Mr. Ortega, sir, he announced, his gaze flicking nervously towards Amelia and the baby. Ethan nodded, carefully returning Lily to Amelia's arms. "Mark is my executive assistant," he explained to Amelia, "and my oldest friend." Mark gave a slight, stiff bow in Amelia's direction, but there was an undercurrent of defensiveness in his posture. "Mr. Cole asked me to come urgently," Mark commented, his eyes darting to Lily. "I wasn't aware we had guests." "Amelia and Lily will be staying here while we clear a few things up," Ethan stated firmly. "Someone sent her money to drive her away from me, pretending it was from me. I need to know who." Mark visibly paled. "How would I know anything about that?" Ethan's brow furrowed. "I didn't say you did, but you handle my personal affairs, and I want you to look into this. Discreetly." "Wow, talk about a plot twist. Who do you guys think is behind the mysterious envelope? Ethan's mom? Mark? Someone else entirely? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you're enjoying this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Over the next few days, Amelia and Lily settled into the luxurious guest suite. Ethan, though initially clumsy, insisted on learning how to care for his daughter. Amelia would often find him watching online tutorials on changing diapers or preparing formula, his brow furrowed in concentration. It was a side of him she'd never imagined, the powerful CEO, humbled by the tiny needs of a baby. One evening, while Amelia was feeding Lily in the vast living room, she noticed a file left on the coffee table. It was filled with blueprints and documents for a social housing project in a notoriously underserved area of the city, referred to as the Havenport Blocks. The project was being anonymously funded by the Cole Foundation. "I didn't know you were interested in social projects," she commented when Ethan walked in. He had the grace to blush slightly. "After your presentation at the conference, your passion was infectious. I started looking into it more. You were right, Amelia. Decent housing is a human right, not a luxury." Amelia looked at him with new eyes. This wasn't the cold, calculating businessman she had envisioned after receiving that devastating envelope. This was a man capable of profound change, a man whose compassion ran deeper than she'd ever known. Could she have been so wrong about him? Their conversation was abruptly interrupted by the unannounced arrival of Mrs. Eleanor Ainsworth. She swept into the penthouse using a key Ethan had never asked her to return, her expression one of regal disapproval. "Ethan, is it true what Victoria told me? That you canceled dinner with her parents too?" Her voice trailed off as she spotted Amelia, holding Lily. Her eyes, cold as a winter sky, narrowed. "What is she doing here?" Ethan rose to his feet, positioning himself protectively in front of Amelia and Lily. "Mother, I'd like you to meet your granddaughter, Lily." Mrs. Ainsworth stared at the baby as if she were an alien creature. "You've lost your mind, Ethan. How do you even know she's yours? This woman is clearly just after your money." "Enough!" Ethan's voice, sharp and commanding, echoed through the opulent room. "I will not allow you to speak about Amelia that way." Eleanor raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow, her composure regained. "At the very least, you should demand a paternity test before you throw away your future with the Ashworth family for some commoner's bastard child." Amelia stood up, her body trembling with suppressed rage, but her voice was steady. "I don't need your son's money, Mrs. Ainsworth. For 10 months, I've supported my daughter on my own. I only came here because Ethan insisted on clearing up this misunderstanding." Ethan took Amelia's hand, his grip firm and reassuring. "I will do the paternity test, Mother. Not because I doubt for a second that Lily is mine, but because I want the legal documentation to officially recognize her as my daughter and my heir." Eleanor Ainsworth paled visibly at this declaration. "You're making a grave mistake, Ethan. Think of the company, the family name, our reputation." "I am thinking of my family," he retorted, his gaze softening as he looked at Amelia and Lily. "And they are my family now." After his mother swept out in a torrent of unspoken fury, a heavy silence descended. "I'll do the test," Amelia said finally. "Not to prove anything to your mother, but so you can be sure." Ethan shook his head, his eyes filled with a conviction that soothed her ragged nerves. I know she's mine, Amelia. I knew it the moment I saw you with her in the rain. But the test will protect us, legally. That night, long after Lily was asleep, Amelia found Ethan on the sprawling terrace, gazing out at the glittering city lights. "Why didn't you look for me sooner?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Why did you believe so easily that I'd rejected you?" Amelia leaned against the railing beside him, the cool night air a balm on her skin. "After I met your mother," the way she looked at me, like I was an intruder, something to be scraped off her designer shoe, and then that envelope arrived. She sighed, a heavy weight settling in her chest. "I guess, deep down, I always knew that you and I were from two different worlds. Worlds that were never meant to collide." Ethan gently took her hand, his thumb stroking her knuckles. "My world was empty without you, Amelia. And now that I know I have a daughter, I'm not losing either of you again." The paternity test results arrived a week later. Ethan opened the envelope with trembling hands, Amelia watching him from across the kitchen island, Lily asleep in her arms. A slow smile spread across Ethan's face, lighting up his eyes. "Positive," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Though I never doubted it." Amelia nodded, a whirlwind of conflicting emotions churning within her. Relief, yes, but also a daunting fear of what came next. "So what now?" she whispered. Ethan sat down opposite her, his eyes full of a fierce, protective determination. "I own a brownstone on Park Avenue. It's been empty since my grandparents passed. I want you and Lily to move in there with me." Before Amelia could protest, he continued, "And I want to offer you a position at the Cole Foundation, a senior role. We need someone with your vision, your passion, for our social housing initiatives." Amelia stared at him, searching his face for any sign of pity or guilt. "Why are you doing this, Ethan? Do you feel obligated because Lily is your daughter?" He took her free hand, his touch sending a jolt through her. "I'm doing this because for 10 long months, I haven't stopped thinking about you for a single day, because we have a beautiful daughter together, and because I believe in your talent, Amelia. I always have. What do you think, viewers? Is Ethan truly sincere? Or is this all too good to be true for Amelia? Can these two worlds really merge? Share your thoughts." The following days were a blur. Amelia visited the Park Avenue brownstone, an elegant, historic mansion with high ceilings, intricate moldings, and a charming, if small, walled garden. It felt a world away from her cramped Bronx apartment. She also visited the sleek, modern offices of the Cole Foundation, where Ethan introduced her to the team not as his girlfriend or the mother of his child, but as the most innovative architect of her generation. In the evenings, back at the penthouse Amelia hadn't yet agreed to move into the brownstone, Ethan would tell her about his meetings with investors, his struggles with the more conservative members of his board. She, in turn, would share her ideas for improving the foundation's projects, her critiques often sharp but always constructive. "It's like we speak the same language," Ethan remarked one night, a hint of wonder in his voice. "Even though we come from such different worlds, and different they were." One afternoon, as Amelia was sketching plans for a new community center, Ethan hesitantly invited her to a business dinner. "It's with the Ashworths," he explained, a touch of discomfort in his voice. "I need to maintain the business relationship, even if the merger possibility is off the table." Amelia understood immediately. The Ashworths were the family whose daughter, Victoria, Eleanor, had been grooming to marry Ethan. The dinner was predictably tense. Victoria Ashworth, however, turned out to be an elegant, surprisingly warm woman who treated Amelia with genuine kindness. Her parents, on the other hand, barely concealed their disdain, especially when Ethan proudly introduced Amelia as the mother of my daughter and the new creative director of our foundation. "Social architecture?" Mr. Ashworth drawled, a condescending smirk playing on his lips. "How noble. Though not very profitable, is it, Ethan?" "Social projects aren't measured in terms of economic profitability," Amelia interjected coolly, before Ethan could respond. "They're measured in human dignity." An awkward silence followed her words, broken only when Victoria Ashworth smiled and raised her champagne flute. To human dignity, then, she said, winking at Amelia, and to women who dare to speak their minds. On the drive back to the penthouse, Amelia apologized. I shouldn't have spoken out like that. I probably ruined your business relationship. Ethan took her hand, bringing it to his lips for a soft kiss. You said exactly what I was thinking. And don't worry about the Ashworths. We'll find other partners. Partners who share our vision. The next day, while reviewing documents at the foundation, Amelia stumbled upon a file detailing several anonymous, substantial donations funding grassroots projects in struggling New York neighborhoods. All of them were signed off by Ethan, months before she had re-entered his life. That evening, when he returned from a grueling board meeting, she confronted him. Why didn't you ever tell me you were already supporting social projects? I thought this was all new to you, something I inspired. Ethan loosened his tie, a weary sigh escaping him. After I met you, Amelia, after I saw your passion, your brilliance, I started seeing the city differently. So much opulence, so much wealth, existing side by side with such desperate need. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Something warm and profound melted inside Amelia. This was an Ethan she could not only love but deeply respect. A man willing to learn, to grow, to use his immense privilege for something greater than himself. However, the external pressures didn't relent. During a tense board meeting, several members, close cronies of Eleanor Ainsworth, openly questioned the company's new philanthropic direction. These social housing projects are a financial black hole, Ethan, one argued. And without the Ashworth merger, our stock is already taking a hit. We will diversify, Ethan responded firmly, his jaw set. Luxury developments will remain our core business, but these social projects, they will be our legacy. That afternoon, as he was leaving the tumultuous meeting, Ethan found his mother waiting for him in his office. So, you're truly going to throw away my entire life's work for that woman? Eleanor demanded, her voice trembling with fury. No, mother, Ethan replied, his voice calm but resolute. I'm going to build upon your life's work. Create something we can all be truly proud of. Eleanor's eyes blazed. That woman and her bastard child are manipulating you. If you continue down this path, Ethan, you will lose this company. You will lose everything. Ethan stood taller, his voice suddenly as cold as ice. Lily is your granddaughter. She carries my name, and she has all my love. And if I am ever forced to choose between this company and my family, mother, I will not hesitate for a second. That night, when Ethan arrived back at the penthouse, he found Amelia packing her meager belongings and Lily's things into a few bags. What are you doing? He asked, his heart lurching with alarm. We're moving to the brownstone, she said, not looking up. I think it's time. Ethan approached her slowly. What happened, Amelia? Did my mother come here? She finally met his gaze, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She did. She told me that because of me you're about to lose the company, that the board is considering ousting you. Amelia sat on the edge of the bed, her shoulders slumped. She's right, Ethan. You're risking too much for us. Ethan knelt before her, taking her hands in his. His touch was warm, steadying. I'm not risking anything that's worth keeping if the price is losing you and Lily. Later that evening, as they were sharing a quiet dinner on the terrace, Ethan's phone rang, shrill and insistent. It was from the private clinic the Cole family used. Yes, he answered, his face instantly tensing. When? We're on our way. He hung up, his face pale. It's Lily, he said, already on his feet. She has a very high fever. The nanny took her to the clinic when she couldn't get her temperature down. Fear, cold and sharp, gripped Amelia as they raced to the elevator. In the car, she clutched Ethan's hand, her own trembling. I should have been with her, she whispered, her voice choked with self-reproach. We'll be with her now, he said, his grip tightening on hers. And always. At the clinic, Mark Bellwether met them, his expression grave. Ethan barely registered his presence as they rushed to the private room where Lily lay. The baby was tiny and flushed in the large hospital bed, connected to several monitors. The doctor explained it was a severe infection, but they had already started antibiotics. "I have that crucial board meeting tomorrow," Ethan murmured, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. "If I don't attend, they'll vote to remove me as CEO." Amelia looked at him, surprised by the conflict in his voice, but more so by his next words. He looked from Lily's small, still form to Amelia's worried face. "My place is here," he stated, his voice firm, leaving no room for discussion. "With my family. The company can wait." And in that moment, watching Ethan sit vigil by their daughter's bedside throughout the long, anxious night, his tie discarded, his sleeves rolled up, his eyes never leaving Lily, Amelia finally, unequivocally, allowed her heart to believe what her eyes had been seeing. This man, Ethan Cole, truly loved them, her and their daughter, more than his vast business empire, more than his power, more than his name. This is so intense. What a father. Do you think Ethan made the right choice? And will his mother ever come around? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're on the edge of your seat, hit that like button. After 3 agonizing days, Lily began to recover. Her fever broke, and soon, the smiles and gurgles returned, lighting up her parents' exhausted faces. True to his word, Ethan hadn't left her side and missed the board meeting. He delegated his vote to Mark, who, with some skillful maneuvering, had managed to get the no-confidence vote postponed, but not defeated. "How did it go?" Amelia asked when Mark arrived at the hospital the following afternoon, looking harried. The two men exchanged a tense look. "We bought some time," Mark said, his gaze avoiding Amelia's. "But the situation is untenable, Ethan. Your mother has convinced several key board members that your new priorities are sinking the company." Ethan, sitting beside Lily's crib where she now slept peacefully, nodded, his expression grim. "I know, but I'm not backing down." That evening, when they were finally able to take Lily home, they went directly to the Park Avenue brownstone. Amelia was surprised to find that Ethan had, in her absence, hired a team to transform one of the large bedrooms into a beautiful nursery, complete with pastel walls, hand-painted murals of whimsical animals, and an antique crib that, he explained with a shy smile, had been his own as a baby. "I don't want you to think I'm trying to buy you with material things," he said softly, as Amelia walked through the lovely room, her heart swelling. "I know that's not what matters to you." Amelia turned to him, deeply moved. "What matters to me," she said, her voice thick with emotion, "is that you thought of every detail, that you want Lily to have a real home, that you want us to have a home." Ethan closed the distance between them, his eyes searching hers. And then, for the first time since their dramatic reunion in the storm, he kissed her. It was a soft, tentative kiss, almost a question, as if asking if there was still hope for them, a path back to each other. Amelia responded with equal tenderness, allowing herself, finally, to believe that perhaps, just perhaps, they had found it. The peace, however, was short-lived. The next morning, as they were sharing a quiet breakfast in the sun-drenched morning room, Mark Bellwether appeared at the door, his face a mask of tortured anguish. "I need to talk to you," he said, his hands twisting nervously. "To both of you." Ethan invited him in, concern replacing the usual camaraderie he shared with his oldest friend. "What is it, Mark? What's wrong?" Mark took a deep, shuddering breath before he spoke, his gaze fixed on the ornate pattern of the Persian rug. "It was me," he choked out. "I was the one who delivered the envelope with the money to Amelia." An icy silence descended upon the room. Amelia felt the blood drain from her face, while Ethan rose slowly from his chair, his eyes narrowing into dangerous slits. "What are you saying?" Ethan's voice was a lethal whisper. Mark didn't look up. "I delivered the envelope," he repeated, his voice cracking. "But it was your mother, Mrs. Ainsworth. She ordered me to do it." "My mother!" Ethan slammed his fist on the mahogany table, making the fine china rattle. "And you just obeyed? My best friend, betraying me like this." She told me it was for your own good, Mark continued, the words tumbling out in a desperate rush. She said Amelia was distracting you from your responsibilities, that the Ashworth merger was on the verge of collapse because of her. She said you secretly agreed but didn't want to face Amelia directly. Amelia listened, frozen, as the missing pieces of the cruel puzzle slammed into place. The money, the typewritten note, the impeccable timing. It had all been Eleanor's monstrously manipulative plan. I don't care whose idea it was, Ethan snarled, his face contorted with a mixture of fury and betrayal as he glared at Mark. What I care about is that you, someone I considered a brother, you betrayed me. You separated us for 10 months. You made me miss the birth of my daughter, her first months of life. Mark finally looked up, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. I am so sorry, Ethan. There isn't a day, not a single moment, that I don't regret it. But your mother, she can be incredibly persuasive. And out. Ethan's voice, raw with pain, reverberated through the elegant room. Get out of my house. Mark stumbled to his feet, his body trembling. Please, Ethan, 30 years of friendship. 30 years you just torched. Ethan bit out, gesturing sharply towards the door. Leave. Before I say something I'll regret even more. After Mark had gone, a shattered wreck of a man, Ethan slumped back into his chair, his face a mask of devastation. I never thought. My own mother. And Mark. Amelia went to him, her heart aching for his pain. Despite the turmoil Mark's confession had reignited in her, she gently took his hand. Your mother believed she was doing what was right for you, Ethan. In her world, I was a threat to your future, to everything she'd built. Ethan looked at her, his eyes filled with disbelief. Are you defending her? After what she did to us? Amelia shook her head. No, what she did was unforgivable. But I understand her fear. She built an empire, and she was terrified you'd lose it all for someone like me. Ethan's fingers tightened around hers. Someone like you, he said, his voice hoarse with emotion, is exactly what I need in my life. Someone real, someone with principles, someone who sees beyond the money and the power. That afternoon, Ethan drove to his mother's grand estate in the Hamptons. Amelia waited at the brownstone, respecting his need to have this confrontation alone. The discussion, he told her later, had been brutal. Eleanor Ainsworth hadn't denied her role in the scheme to separate them, stubbornly defending her actions as necessary to protect the family legacy. Protect the family legacy by tearing me away from the mother of my child? Ethan had yelled, his voice raw with a pain that cut deeper than any business loss. By depriving me of seeing my daughter born, of holding her in her first months? That girl was never right for you, Ethan, Eleanor had insisted, her voice as cold and unyielding as marble. The Ashworth alliance was perfect. Victoria is from our world. Your world is cold and calculating, mother? Ethan had retorted, his words like shards of ice. And I don't want to be a part of it anymore. He returned to the brownstone that night with an expression Amelia had never seen before. A profound sadness mixed with an unshakable resolve. I told her, he said, his voice heavy as he poured himself a stiff whiskey, that I don't want her in our lives until she can sincerely apologize to you, Amelia. She cannot be near Lily if she doesn't respect Lily's mother. Amelia wrapped her arms around him from behind, resting her forehead against his strong back. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I never wanted to cause this kind of rift in your family. He turned in her embrace, cupping her face in his hands. You and Lily, he said, his eyes searching hers. You are my family now, and we will build something better, something truer, than what I'm leaving behind. In the weeks that followed, Ethan began to restructure Cole Construction, distancing himself from the old guard, conservative partners, and actively seeking out younger, more progressive investors who shared his new vision of socially responsible development. The company started to diversify, maintaining its portfolio of luxury properties, but significantly expanding its commitment to social housing and community-focused projects. Amelia, meanwhile, flourished at the Cole Foundation. Her innovative designs for affordable, dignified housing began to attract national attention. Soon, she found herself presenting the foundation's work at conferences, a respected voice in the field of social architecture. Curiously, it was at one such conference that she reconnected with Victoria Ashworth, who, it turned out, was now a director at her own successful sustainable architecture firm. "I never actually wanted to marry Ethan, you know?" Victoria confessed over coffee, with a surprising candor. "My parents and Eleanor arranged the whole thing without ever really consulting us. I was in love with one of my architecture professors from college." "And now?" Amelia asked, intrigued by this unexpected revelation. Victoria's face lit up with a radiant smile. "Now Gabriel and I are together. We opened our firm 6 months ago. Ironically," she added with a wry grin, "I suppose I have you and Ethan to thank for liberating me from that particular family obligation." When Amelia recounted this conversation to Ethan, he actually laughed. A genuine, hearty laugh, the first Amelia had heard from him in days. "So, we both escaped an arranged marriage," he commented. Though the price was steep, a shadow crossed his face. "Do you regret it?" Amelia asked, a sudden wave of insecurity washing over her. Ethan pulled her close, kissing her forehead tenderly. "Only that I didn't find you sooner, Amelia. Only that I didn't stop my car in that rainstorm years before." That night, with Lily sleeping peacefully in her antique crib, Ethan and Amelia made love for the first time since their reunion. It wasn't the frantic, desperate passion of their first whirlwind romance. This was different. The wounds, the betrayals, the separations, they had changed them, forged them into something stronger, deeper. In that transformation, they found a connection more profound, more real, than anything they had known before. "I love you," Ethan whispered against her skin, his voice raw with an emotion that resonated in the depths of her soul. "You and Lily, and the life we're building together." Amelia closed her eyes, a sense of peace settling over her, a peace she had once thought impossible. "I love you too," she replied, her voice sure and steady. "And for the first time, Ethan, I'm not afraid to say it. This is such a powerful turning point. Do you believe Eleanor will ever truly repent? And what about Mark? Can such deep betrayals ever be fully forgiven? We want to hear your opinions. And please, if their journey is touching your heart, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell." 6 months after that fateful rainy reunion, life for Ethan and Amelia had found a tentative, hopeful equilibrium. The Park Avenue brownstone, once a symbol of inherited wealth, had transformed into a warm, vibrant home, filled with Lily's laughter and the quiet hum of their shared projects and dreams. Lily, now nearly a year old, was beginning to take her first wobbly steps, toddling gleefully between her adoring parents. Professionally, however, the waters remained choppy. Ethan faced a constant, draining battle within the Cole construction boardroom, where his mother's influence, though diminished, still cast a long shadow. Several promising social projects had been stalled or outright blocked by a lack of board support, and some of the company's more traditional, risk-averse investors were beginning to withdraw their capital. "We can't keep going like this, Ethan," Amelia said one evening, her brow furrowed as they reviewed the foundation's strained finances. "At this rate, we'll have to cancel the Havenport Blocks project entirely." Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. He'd just come from another grueling, unproductive meeting with the board. "We'll find new investors, Amelia. It's just a matter of time." "Time is exactly what these families don't have," she countered, gesturing towards the detailed blueprints of the Havenport project spread across the antique library table. "They need a roof over their heads now, Ethan. Not when we finally manage to convince your skeptical partners." Ethan looked at her, a surge of admiration warming him. Since taking the helm of the foundation's creative direction, Amelia had become a fierce, tireless advocate for its mission, confronting city bureaucrats and entrenched political interests with the same quiet determination she had once used to face her own poverty and loneliness. "So, what do you propose?" he asked, a small smile playing on his lips, already knowing she would have a plan. "We sell the summer house in the Hamptons," Amelia stated, her voice calm but resolute, not a hint of hesitation. "With the money from that sale, we could fully fund the Havenport Blocks development and the new community center." Ethan visibly tensed. "Amelia, that house. It's been in my family for generations. And how long has it been since anyone in your family actually visited it?" She pressed gently. "It sits empty most of the year, a monument to past luxuries, while families are sleeping on the streets, or in shelters, or under leaky plastic sheeting. It was their first real argument, a clash of deeply held convictions. Ethan, the custodian of a family legacy, however complicated. Amelia, the champion of a more just and equitable future." Finally, Ethan let out a long, slow sigh. "You're right," he conceded, the fight draining out of him. "We'll sell it. But I want to be clear, Amelia. I'm not doing this just to please you. I'm doing it because I believe in this project, in these families, as much as you do." A radiant smile broke through Amelia's serious expression. "I know," she said softly. "That's one of the many reasons I love you." The decision to sell the historic Hamptons estate ignited a fresh firestorm within the already fractured Cole family. Eleanor Ainsworth, upon hearing the news, was apoplectic. "That property is not just yours to sell, Ethan," she shrieked over the phone. "It is part of our heritage, our family's legacy." Ethan remained steadfast. "It's already decided, Mother. The buyer signs the papers tomorrow." The night before the sale was finalized, as Amelia and Ethan were sharing a late, quiet dinner on their small city terrace, the doorbell chimed unexpectedly. It was Victoria Ashworth, her usually composed expression etched with worry. "I'm so sorry to barge in like this," she said, "but I just heard something I thought you needed to know immediately." According to Victoria, whose father still sat on the Cole construction board, an emergency meeting had been called for the following morning. The agenda: a vote to oust Ethan as CEO. Eleanor, using the sale of the Hamptons house as proof that Ethan was irresponsibly dissipating the family patrimony, had finally garnered enough support among the wavering board members. "The vote is first thing tomorrow," Victoria concluded, her voice grave. "I came as soon as I heard it from my father." Ethan thanked her for the warning, his expression surprisingly serene. "I was expecting something like this," he said calmly. "In fact, I've been preparing for it for weeks." After Victoria had departed, Amelia stared at him, bewildered. "You knew they were going to try this? Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan took her hands, his gaze steady and reassuring. "I didn't want to worry you unnecessarily. Besides," he added, a confident glint in his eye, "I have a plan, and a brilliant plan it was." The next morning, as the board members gathered in the tense, hushed atmosphere of the Cole construction conference room, ready to cast their votes for his dismissal, Ethan and Amelia walked in together. They were not alone. Flanking them was a group of dynamic, young tech entrepreneurs, individuals who had started their own successful companies from the ground up, many of them originating from the very same underserved communities Ethan was now championing. "Ladies and gentlemen of the board," Ethan announced, his voice ringing with a newfound confidence, "I'd like you to meet our new partners." He gestured towards the assembled entrepreneurs. "They have just collectively acquired a 30% stake in Cole Construction, purchasing the shares previously held by several of our minority investors." A stunned silence fell over the room. Eleanor Ainsworth, seated imperiously at the head of the long mahogany table, visibly paled. That's impossible," she stammered. "Those shares weren't even on the market." "Everything is for sale for the right price, Mother," Ethan replied coolly. "And these gentlemen and ladies," he amended with a nod to the women in the group, "understand perfectly the value of investing in the future of their own communities, a future we intend to build together." The vote of no confidence was summarily cancelled in light of the new shareholder composition. Ethan had masterfully secured his position as CEO, but the emotional toll had been undeniably high. The chasm between him and his mother now seemed wider and deeper than ever. That afternoon, as they signed the final papers for the sale of the Hamptons estate, Amelia noted the deep lines of exhaustion etched around Ethan's eyes. "Are you sure this is what you want?" she asked softly, her hand covering his on the stack of documents. "You don't have to choose between your mother and us, Ethan." He looked up, his gaze meeting hers, clear and unwavering. "I'm not choosing between my mother and you, Amelia. I'm choosing what kind of man I want to be, what kind of legacy I want to leave behind." He paused, a flicker of sadness in his eyes. "I wish she could understand that. But if she can't, then we'll have to move forward without her blessing." The following months were a whirlwind of intense activity. The Havenport Blocks project, fueled by the sale of the Hamptons house and the influx of new, enthusiastic investment, moved forward at an unprecedented pace. What had once been a blighted, forgotten corner of the city began to transform into a vibrant, hopeful community, with dignified homes, green spaces, and essential services taking shape. Amelia worked tirelessly, overseeing every architectural detail, her passion inspiring everyone around her. Ethan, meanwhile, continued to restructure Cole Construction, boldly steering the corporate giant towards a new model that prioritized projects combining profitability with profound social responsibility. The press, initially skeptical, began to take notice of the remarkable transformation underway at Grupo Cole. Soon, Ethan and Amelia found themselves in the unexpected spotlight, giving interviews, participating in panel discussions, and speaking at conferences about purpose-driven business and social impact investing. "I never imagined I'd be standing in front of cameras, talking about social architecture," Amelia commented with a bemused smile after one particularly successful television interview. "And I never thought I'd become the rebel CEO, challenging the corporate establishment," Ethan responded, his own smile tinged with a wry humor. Their relationship, too, was deepening, forged in the crucible of shared challenges and triumphs. The evenings were sacrosanct, reserved for Lily, for bath time and bedtime stories, for the simple, profound joy of tucking their daughter into her crib and watching her drift off to sleep. Afterward, it was just the two of them. Sometimes they worked late into the night, poring over blueprints for new projects, their minds buzzing with ideas. Other times, they simply enjoyed each other's quiet company, rediscovering the easy intimacy, the deep connection that had first drawn them together, now enriched by all they had endured and overcome. One cool autumn evening, Ethan found Amelia on the brownstone's small rooftop terrace, gazing out at the glittering panorama of the Manhattan skyline. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind, pulling her close. "Just how much everything has changed," she murmured, leaning back against him. "A year ago, I was out there somewhere, alone, soaked to the bone in a storm, terrified, with no idea how I was going to feed Lily the next day." She turned in his embrace to face him, her eyes shining with a soft, reflective light. "And you know what's strange, Ethan? Despite how incredibly hard it was, how much I suffered, I wouldn't change a thing. That struggle, it taught me who I am, what I'm made of." Ethan kissed her tenderly, his heart swelling with love and admiration for this incredible woman. "And it taught me," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "that everything I thought was important, the money, the status, the power, the connections, it all means nothing, absolutely nothing, without someone to share it with. Without you, Amelia. Without Lily." The official inauguration of the Havenport Blocks housing project was a major media event. Families who had lived for generations in precarious, substandard conditions were handed the keys to their brand new, beautifully designed homes that Amelia had painstakingly planned to maximize space, light, and dignity. Ethan delivered an emotional, impassioned speech about the social responsibility of corporations, poignantly recalling how a young, unknown architect with fiery eyes and a revolutionary vision had opened his own eyes to a harsh reality that, from his position of immense privilege, he had too long chosen to ignore. "Today, we are not just inaugurating new homes," he declared, his gaze finding Amelia's in the cheering crowd. "We are inaugurating a new way of understanding business success, a new definition of what it means to build a lasting legacy." The thunderous ovation that followed was unexpectedly interrupted by the arrival of an elegant, familiar figure making her way slowly, almost hesitantly, through the throng, Eleanor Ainsworth. A hush fell over the assembled audience as mother and son faced each other across the sea of people. Finally, Eleanor reached the makeshift stage and, to everyone's astonishment, she embraced her son. "I'm proud of you, Ethan," she said, her voice, amplified by the microphones, carrying clearly over the suddenly silent crowd. "Your father, he would have been proud of you too." That night, in the quiet intimacy of their Park Avenue home, Ethan seemed lighter, as if an invisible, crushing weight had finally been lifted from his shoulders. "I didn't expect her to come," he confessed, as they gently laid a sleeping Lily in her crib. "Much less say what she did." Amelia gently caressed his cheek. "Perhaps," she said softly, "she's finally beginning to understand that the true Cole legacy isn't about properties or stock prices, Ethan. It's about what you're building now. What we're building." Ethan smiled, his gaze dropping to their sleeping daughter. "What we're building together," he whispered, his voice filled with a quiet, profound joy. The reconciliation with Eleanor Ainsworth was fragile, tentative, but undeniably real. She began to visit the brownstone occasionally, bringing carefully chosen gifts for Lily, and gradually, painstakingly, establishing a civil, if not yet warm, relationship with Amelia. "We'll never be best friends," Amelia remarked to Ethan with a wry smile after one such visit. "But at least now we can be in the same room without sparks flying." "It's a start," Ethan replied, a hopeful glint in his eyes. And for an Ainsworth, admitting a mistake is about as rare as finding an oasis in the desert. Life, it seemed, was finally finding its rhythm. Their new projects thrived. Lily grew healthier and happier with each passing day, and the bond between Ethan and Amelia deepened, strengthened by shared purpose and unwavering love. Until one late afternoon, Mark Bellwether appeared at their front door. His face gaunt, his eyes haunted, his entire demeanor radiating a profound, soul-deep anguish. "I need to talk to you, Ethan," he said, his voice raspy, almost a croak. There's something else. Something more you both need to know." Ethan stared at Mark standing on the threshold, his expression a complicated mix of surprise and lingering resentment. "You've said more than enough, Mark," he replied, his voice cold, already moving to close the door. Amelia appeared behind him, Lily balanced expertly on her hip. "Ethan, wait," she urged softly. "Let's hear him out. If he's come all this way after all this time, it must be important." Mark looked from Ethan's stony face to Amelia's compassionate one, his eyes filled with a desperate, pleading light. His usually immaculate attire was rumpled, his hair unkempt, a stark contrast to the polished, efficient executive assistant he had always been. "5 minutes," Ethan conceded curtly, stepping aside, a gesture of reluctant acquiescence. In the formal living room, Mark waved away Amelia's offer of coffee, too agitated to even consider drinking anything. His hands trembled visibly as he perched on the edge of an antique velvet armchair. "What I have to tell you, it's not easy," he began, his gaze fixed on the intricate pattern of the carpet. "I didn't just help your mother separate you from Amelia, Ethan. I was the one who convinced her it was necessary." Ethan's face hardened, his eyes turning to chips of ice. "What in God's name are you talking about, Mark?" Mark took a deep, shuddering breath. "I've always cared for you, Ethan. Deeply. Not just as a friend. Not like a brother." He finally lifted his gaze, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears, his face contorted with a pain that seemed to emanate from his very soul. "I've been in love with you, Ethan, since we were teenagers." A heavy, suffocating silence descended upon the room. Amelia instinctively hugged Lily tighter, as if to shield her from the raw, palpable tension that crackled in the air. "When Amelia came into your life," Mark continued, his voice hoarse with emotion, "I saw the way you looked at her. You'd never looked at me that way, and I couldn't bear it. When your mother first voiced her concerns about your relationship, Her worries about the family image, the business. I fueled her fears. I exaggerated things. I told her Amelia was distracting you, that investors were getting nervous. I helped her plan every detail of how to drive Amelia away. Ethan had gone completely still, his face an unreadable mask. "Why are you telling me this now, Mark?" he asked at last, his voice a barely audible whisper. "Because I can't live with it anymore," Mark choked out, tears finally escaping, tracing paths down his pale cheeks. "Because seeing you so happy with her, with your daughter, it makes me realize how colossally selfish, how destructive I was. Because I desperately need your forgiveness if I'm ever to move on with my own life." Ethan shot up from his chair, his fists clenched at his sides. "My forgiveness?" he bit out, his voice laced with a pain so profound it was almost a physical blow. "After you stole 10 months of my daughter's life from me? After you let Amelia endure her pregnancy alone, struggling every single day to survive, while I lived in blissful ignorance in my privileged world?" "Ethan," Amelia interjected gently, moving to his side, taking Lily from his rigid arms. "Listen to him, not to absolve him, not yet, but to understand." Mark looked at Ethan, now holding his daughter, a picture of paternal love that seemed to sear itself into Mark's anguished gaze. "I don't expect you to forgive me now," he whispered. "Not tomorrow, maybe never, but I needed you to know the whole truth. All of it. I'm leaving the country. I've taken a job in Chile." Ethan looked at the man who had been his closest confidant for 3 decades, remembering a lifetime of shared secrets, of laughter, of boyhood dreams. 30 years of steadfast friendship, now irrevocably shattered by jealousy, by lies, by a love unrequited and tragically misdirected. "I don't know what to say to you, Mark." "You don't have to say anything," Mark replied, rising unsteadily to his feet. I wanted you to know how truly, deeply sorry I am, and that you deserve all this happiness, Ethan. All of it." After Mark had gone, leaving an echo of his tormented confession in the opulent room, Ethan remained silent for a long, long time, gently rocking Lily, his gaze lost in some distant, painful memory. "Are you okay?" Amelia finally asked, her voice soft with concern. "I don't know," he answered with brutal honesty. "I feel rage, sadness, utter confusion. 30 years, Amelia. 30 years of friendship, apparently built on a foundation of lies." Amelia moved closer, wrapping her arms around both him and Lily. "It wasn't all a lie, Ethan," she said gently. "The friendship, the bond you shared, that was real. His feelings for you, however complicated, they were real too. He didn't know how to handle them. And he made a terrible, devastating mistake." Ethan looked at her then, his eyes filled with a weary astonishment at her boundless capacity for empathy. "How can you even begin to defend him, Amelia? After everything he did to you, to us?" Amelia offered a small, sad smile. "I'm not defending his actions, Ethan. What he did was monstrous. Unforgivable, perhaps. But I understand what it's like to love someone so desperately, to feel like you can never truly have them, and to make terrible choices out of that pain." That night, long after Lily was asleep, Ethan asked Amelia to tell him about those 10 lost months, about her life while they were separated. "How did you survive, Amelia? How did you manage it all, completely alone?" She sat beside him on their bed, her fingers intertwining with his. "At first," she began, her voice quiet, "it was a nightmare. When I found out I was pregnant, just days after receiving that envelope, I cried for a week straight. I even thought about not going through with it," she confessed, her voice dropping to a whisper. "But something inside me, some tiny, stubborn spark, couldn't. She was a part of you, Ethan. The only part of you I thought I had left." Ethan pulled her close, his arms a haven of warmth and strength, his heart aching as he imagined her pain, her crushing loneliness, her fear. "My friend Chloe, from university, she let me crash on her couch in her tiny Bronx apartment while I looked for work. I managed to find a junior position at a small architectural firm. They didn't care that I was pregnant, but the pay. It was barely enough to survive. When Lily was born, Chloe was a lifesaver. She'd watch Lily for a few hours while I rushed to the office. Then I'd work from home late into the night. Her voice caught. Things were manageable, just barely, until Chloe got a job offer in Cordoba and just left. No warning. Leaving me with the full rent, which I couldn't possibly afford. The night you found us, she continued, her gaze distant, reliving the terror of that evening. I'd just been evicted. I had nowhere to go. I was actually considering calling my parents in Salta, even though we hadn't spoken in years, not since I defied them to pursue my impractical dream of becoming an architect. Ethan kissed her forehead, his heart overflowing with awe at her incredible resilience, her unwavering strength. You are the bravest, strongest person I have ever known, Amelia. She shook her head, a faint smile touching her lips. It wasn't bravery, Ethan. It was survival. You do what you have to do, especially when a tiny, helpless human being is completely dependent on you. Over the next few days, Ethan was unusually quiet, lost in thought. Amelia would often find him staring at old photographs, faded pictures of him and Mark as carefree boys, or gazing at Lily as she slept. His expression a mixture of love and a deep, melancholic sorrow. One afternoon, as they were reviewing blueprints for their next ambitious community project, Ethan finally spoke. I'm thinking of calling Mark, he said, his voice hesitant. Before he leaves for Chile. Amelia looked up from the plans, surprised. Why, Ethan? He sighed, a heavy weight seeming to lift from his shoulders with the exhalation. To tell him that I understand. I can't forgive him, not yet. Maybe not ever. But I understand. He met her gaze, his own eyes filled with a newfound clarity. We all make terrible, devastating mistakes, Amelia, often in the name of love, however misguided. Some mistakes are unforgivable, but that doesn't mean we can't eventually find some measure of peace. For their sake and for our own. Amelia smiled, her heart swelling with pride for the man he was, the man he was becoming. I think that's the right thing to do, Ethan. For him, yes, but mostly for you. A few days later, another unexpected visitor arrived at their doorstep. Eleanor Ainsworth appeared, unannounced, looking frilier, thinner, and significantly more subdued than Amelia had ever seen her. I haven't been feeling well, she confessed, her voice weak, as Amelia, surprised, invited her in. The doctor said, I had a small stroke. Ethan, instantly alarmed, rushed to his mother's side. A stroke? Mother, why didn't you tell me? When did this happen? About 2 weeks ago, Eleanor admitted, her gaze avoiding his. I didn't want to worry you, not with all your new projects. And, well, we weren't exactly on the best of terms. Amelia watched the scene, her emotions a tangled mess of residual distrust for the woman who had callously tried to destroy her life, and a surprising surge of compassion for this clearly vulnerable, aging woman. Would you like to meet your granddaughter? Amelia heard herself ask, the words impulsive, surprising even herself. Properly this time? A flicker of something soft, almost hopeful, lit up Eleanor Ainsworth's tired eyes. I would like that very much. Amelia went to fetch Lily, who was now confidently toddling around on her sturdy little legs. The child looked with wide, curious eyes at the elegant, unfamiliar woman seated beside her father. Lily, Amelia said gently, this is your Grandma Ellie. The little girl, with the innocent, unconditional love of a child, broke into a wide, toothy grin and, without a moment's hesitation, toddled forward, her arms outstretched towards the woman who had once so cruelly dismissed her existence. Eleanor took her granddaughter into her arms, her own hands trembling, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She looks just like Ethan did as a baby, she murmured, her voice thick with emotion as she gently stroked Lily's dark, curly hair. She has your eyes, Amelia, but that smile, that's all Cole. For the next hour, Eleanor Ainsworth played with Lily. She told her stories about Ethan's childhood, her voice softening with remembered affection. She even laughed, a genuine, surprisingly warm sound, when Lily, with a delighted shriek, managed to spill a cup of juice all over her expensive designer skirt. When it was time for her to leave, Eleanor turned to Amelia, her expression one of profound, difficult humility. "I was wrong about you, Amelia," she said, the words seeming to cause her physical pain. "I misjudged you terribly. I thought you were just after Ethan's money, that you were using him. But now I see how happy you make him. I see that you've given him a sense of purpose, a depth he never had before. And you've given me this precious, beautiful granddaughter." She paused, her voice trembling. "I am sorry, Amelia, for everything. Truly sorry." Amelia felt a lump form in her throat. "Thank you, Eleanor," she said, her own voice not quite steady. That means a great deal to me, to our family." The reconciliation with Eleanor, though fragile and still evolving, marked a new, hopeful chapter in their lives. She began to visit Lily regularly, bringing thoughtful gifts and offering surprisingly gentle, unsolicited parenting advice, always treating Amelia with a newfound, if sometimes hesitant, respect. One rainy evening, exactly 1 year to the day after that tumultuous, life-altering encounter on Fifth Avenue, Ethan drove Amelia and Lily back to the very same spot where he had slammed on his brakes, his heart pounding, and asked that fateful question. "What are we doing here, Ethan?" Amelia asked, a puzzled smile playing on her lips as he helped them out of the car. The rain was a soft, gentle drizzle this time, nothing like the furious deluge of that unforgettable night, but it was enough to cast that uniquely magical, reflective glow over the rain-slicked New York streets. Ethan lifted Lily, now a chattering, inquisitive toddler of nearly 18 months, into his arms. She gurgled happily, trying to catch the tiny raindrops on her outstretched tongue. "1 year ago," Ethan said, his voice deep and resonant, his gaze locked on Amelia's. "In this exact spot, my life changed forever. I thought I knew everything, had everything. But I had nothing, Amelia, nothing real, until I found you both." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet-lined box. Then, to Amelia's utter astonishment, he knelt down on one knee on the damp pavement, right where her worn-out shoes had been soaked through that desperate night. "Amelia Hayes," he said, his voice thick with an emotion that made her own heart ache. "Would you do me the extraordinary, life-affirming honor of marrying me?" Inside the box, nestled on a bed of dark satin, was not the ostentatious, multi-carat diamond Amelia might have once expected from a man of Ethan Cole's immense wealth and stature. Instead, it was a simple, elegant gold band, intricately engraved with tiny, star-like inlays of lapis lazuli, her favorite gemstone, a detail he had somehow remembered from their brief, intense courtship so long ago. Amelia looked from the beautiful, meaningful ring to Ethan, kneeling before her in the soft rain, their precious daughter cradled in his arms. She felt her heart expand, swell with a love so profound, so overwhelming, it almost hurt. "Yes," she whispered, tears of pure joy mingling with the raindrops on her cheeks. "Oh yes, Ethan, yes. But," she added, a playful, challenging light dancing in her eyes, "on one condition." Ethan looked up at her, a mixture of amusement and nervous anticipation on his face. "And what condition is that, my love?" "That we build our life together always as equals. That neither of us ever sacrifices our dreams, our passions, for the other. That we grow together, support each other, always side by side, never one in front of the other, or at the expense of the other." Ethan rose to his feet, his smile radiant, his eyes shining with an answering love. He gently slid the exquisite lapis lazuli ring onto her finger, his own hands trembling slightly. "I wouldn't have it any other way, Amelia," he murmured, his voice husky, before he leaned in and kissed her. A deep, soulful kiss, right there under the softly falling rain, as Lily clapped her tiny hands and laughed with delight between them. "What a proposal! Absolutely beautiful. Are you crying? Because we might be. If this story has touched your heart, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss another incredible story like this one. What was your favorite moment so far? Let us know in the comments below. 2 years had passed since that unforgettable proposal under the gentle New York rain. The lives of Ethan and Amelia Cole had transformed as dramatically and beautifully as the city skyline that now stretched before them, a familiar, beloved backdrop to their shared existence. The vibrant, joyful cacophony of the grand opening celebration for the Hopewell Community Center filled the crisp autumn air. Located in the heart of the very Queens neighborhood where Amelia had spent her challenging childhood, the building itself, a stunning example of modern, sustainable architecture, yet radiating an undeniable warmth and welcome, perfectly symbolized the harmonious fusion of their two once disparate worlds. Ethan's resources, business acumen, and newfound social conscience, seamlessly interwoven with Amelia's brilliant architectural talent, her profound empathy, and her unwavering commitment to social justice. Ethan, casually dressed in well-worn jeans and a soft chambray shirt, a striking departure from the impeccably tailored power suits he had once favored, expertly juggled a giggling Lily, now a vivacious chatterbox of 3.5, who couldn't stop pointing at the brightly colored balloons and festive streamers adorning the entrance. "Mommy's gonna cut the ribbon," Lily shrieked, clapping her hands with infectious excitement as Amelia approached the ceremonial red velvet ribbon stretched across the main doorway. Amelia, her face glowing with a radiant serenity, her simple, elegant linen dress softly accentuating her 6-month pregnant belly, smiled lovingly at her daughter and husband before accepting the oversized ceremonial scissors from the beaming city mayor. This second pregnancy, unlike her first, had been joyfully planned, eagerly anticipated, and celebrated with overwhelming love from the very beginning. "This center," Amelia began, her voice clear, confident, and carrying easily over the expectant hush of the crowd gathered before the microphone, "is not just a building. It is a testament, a living symbol of what we can achieve when different worlds, different experiences, different perspectives, choose to collaborate instead of compete. When we build bridges instead of walls." Among the diverse crowd, Eleanor Ainsworth watched, her expression a complex, poignant mixture of maternal pride and a lingering, bittersweet resignation. Her relationship with Ethan and Amelia remained a work in progress, a delicate dance of past hurts and present hopes, but time, her own recent health scare, and the undeniable, transformative power of her granddaughter's unconditional love had noticeably softened her once steely edges. She now visited Lily regularly and had even begun to tentatively, if sometimes grudgingly, accept that the unconventional path her son had chosen was not only valid but deeply honorable. Not far from Eleanor, a thoughtfully observant Mark Bellwether stood quietly, taking in the ceremony. After a transformative, soul-searching year in Chile, he had returned to New York, eventually cautiously, accepting Ethan's unexpected offer to head the significantly expanded Cole Foundation. Full forgiveness on Ethan's part was still a distant horizon, a journey rather than a destination, but they had found a way to coexist, to rebuild something meaningful from the wreckage of their shattered friendship, even if it was something new, something different. Victoria Ashworth and her husband, Gabriel, were also present, their sustainable architecture firm now a frequent, valued partner on many of the foundation's most ambitious projects. Their own success story was a testament to dreams pursued and authenticity embraced. They often joked with Ethan and Amelia about how the spectacular collapse of their ill-fated, parentally arranged engagement had, ironically, been the very best thing that could have possibly happened to either of them. And with this inauguration today, Amelia continued, her voice resonating with passion and conviction. "We are not just opening doors for the families of this wonderful, resilient neighborhood. We are forging new pathways towards a future where true business success is measured not just by its profit margins, but by its positive social impact, by the lives it touches, by the communities it uplifts." A roar of applause erupted as Amelia decisively snipped the red ribbon. Ethan, with Lily still perched happily on his shoulders, moved to his wife's side, his eyes shining with an immense love and pride. He leaned in and kissed her softly, a public display of affection that drew a fresh wave of whistles, cheers, and more applause from the delighted onlookers. As the crowd began to surge forward, eager to explore the beautiful new facility, a soft, almost imperceptible drizzle began to fall, a gentle mist cooling the warm late summer air. Ethan glanced up at the sky, a knowing smile playing on his lips. "Well, what do you know?" he commented, extending a hand to feel the delicate droplets. "It seems even the heavens want to celebrate with us today." Amelia took his free hand, her fingers lacing through his, a comfortable, familiar gesture that spoke volumes of their shared journey. "Do you remember?" she mused, her voice soft. "When rain, for me, only ever meant misfortune, despair? That day, that horrible, wonderful day, I was so desperate, Ethan, so utterly alone." He nodded, the memory still vivid, still capable of sending a shiver down his spine. Amelia, drenched, defiant, fiercely protecting their child in the midst of that brutal urban tempest. "And now," he replied, his voice filled with a quiet wonder, as he deftly produced a small, compact umbrella from the pocket of his jacket. "Now it's a blessing." He opened it with a practiced flick of his wrist, its cheerful blue canopy sheltering the three of them, soon to be four from the gentle shower. As they walked slowly towards the entrance of the community center, warmly greeting neighbors, shaking hands with community leaders, and acknowledging well-wishers, Eleanor Ainsworth approached them, her steps a little less certain than they once were, but her gaze surprisingly direct. "Congratulations," she said, her smile a little tight, perhaps, but undeniably genuine. "You've achieved something truly remarkable here, Amelia." "Thank you, Eleanor," Amelia replied, a warm sincerity in her own voice, consciously, for the first time, using her mother-in-law's first name instead of the more formal Mrs. Ainsworth. "It means a great deal to me, to us, that you're here today to share this with us." The older woman reached out and gently, almost reverently, caressed her granddaughter's rosy cheek. Lily beamed up at her, her affection pure and unreserved, a beautiful testament to a child's innate capacity to forgive, to love without condition, without memory of past slights. "Your grandfather," Eleanor said, her voice suddenly thick with emotion as she turned to Ethan, her eyes glistening. "He would have been so incredibly proud of you today, son. He always used to say that the Cole family should build more than just skyscrapers. He believed we should build hope." As they continued their tour through the vibrant, bustling center, showcasing the state-of-the-art job training classrooms, the cheerful, well-equipped daycare center, the community health clinic, the sun-drenched library, and the welcoming communal gathering spaces, Amelia and Ethan exchanged frequent, knowing glances, looks filled with a deep, unspoken understanding, recognizing in every carefully considered detail the tangible, beautiful fruit of their shared labor, their united vision. In the central courtyard, where a small, artfully designed fountain gurgled peacefully, surrounded by lush native plants and comfortable, handcrafted benches, Ethan paused for a moment, pulling Amelia gently to his side. "Do you know?" he asked, his voice a low, intimate murmur amidst the joyful hum of the celebration, his gaze fixed on her face with an intensity that still, after all this time, made her heart skip a beat. "What the single most important, most transformative business decision of my entire life was?" Elia smiled, a soft, knowing light in her eyes. She already knew the answer. "Slamming on the brakes of your car in the middle of a torrential downpour on Fifth Avenue that one crazy night." Ethan nodded, gently rocking Lily, who was now beginning to drowse against his shoulder, lulled by the warmth, the excitement, and the soothing rhythm of his movements. "Actually," Amelia corrected him playfully, lovingly, her hand resting protectively on her own gently rounded belly, where their second child, their son, was growing. "That wasn't a business decision, my love." Her eyes sparkled with a deep, unshakable conviction. "That was destiny." The rain was falling a little more steadily now, a soft, percussive rhythm against the roof of the community center, a gentle, cleansing sound. But it was no longer the ominous prelude to a tragedy, as it had been on that terrifying night 2 years prior. Now, it felt like the soft, harmonious accompaniment to a life meticulously lovingly rebuilt, brick by brick, dream by dream. Day by day, a life lived together, under the shared shelter of the same small, sturdy umbrella that now protected them not from the storms of life, but through them. Together. Destiny? Ethan murmured, his lips brushing her temple in a tender kiss. And the single best decision I ever made. As the joyful celebration continued around them, the sounds of laughter and music and happy chatter mingling with the soothing patter of the rain, Amelia and Ethan Cole stood for a moment longer under their small, shared umbrella, quietly contemplating all they had built. Not just a community center, not just a renewed, re-envisioned company, but a family, a home, a future where they had both finally, truly found their place. Together, after the storm, and into the sunshine that always, eventually, follows. For what is life, if not a tapestry woven from storms and sunshine, a journey of finding shelter, not from the world, but within it, with those we love, and that, dear viewers, is the heart of their story. A reminder that true wealth is measured in love, forgiveness, and the courage to build a better world, one act of kindness, one shared dream at a time. If Amelia and Ethan's incredible journey from despair to destiny has inspired you, please show your love by liking this video, subscribing to our channel for more heartwarming stories, and sharing this video with someone who might need a little hope today. And tell us in the comments below, what's the biggest lesson you're taking away from their story? We can't wait to read your thoughts. Until next time, keep believing in second chances.